There's a misconception out there that I hate looping chord progressions. I think it comes from when I was giving someone feedback on their entry in one of our free composing competitions. Link in the description if you don't know about those yet. I said it was a personal pet peeve of mine when the chord progression loops over and over and they just keep stacking layers on top of existing layers. I don't have a problem with looping chord progressions. I have a problem with things being boring. For example, take Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. It's D minor 7, E minor 7, A minor 7 over and over again for 3 minutes. But I love that song. It's a looping chord progression, but there are at least 3 things that make it work. First of all, there are lyrics, which are the most forefront thing and keep our attention. Then there's the groove, which is there to feel good. The looping chord progression is working here in a style where the beat and feel are infinitely more important than the specific chords being used. And finally, that top line is changing significantly between sections. Even if you don't read music very well, you can probably tell that these 3 ideas are completely different. So this is not a case where when she gets to the chorus, she just stacks a new layer on top of the verse melody. There's a complete change in the most salient aspect of the music, the top line vocal. And that is enough of a change to keep it interesting and moving forward. So again, it has nothing to do with the chords looping and everything to do with that same thing happening over and over and over again. If the chords happen to be the same, that doesn't necessarily make the entire piece the same thing on repeat, as long as enough other elements keep it fresh and interesting. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what about some specific piece right now? Like, how about Hans Zimmer's Time from Inception? That's an 8-bar loop with the same chords over and over, with layers stacking on top of each other. So why do I like that piece? Well, first of all, every time we get through the loop and he adds a layer, that new layer is compelling and interesting enough that it grabs our attention. And he brings in new instruments every 8 bars. So we only ever have one time through with each specific texture. Unfortunately, I can't play long enough segments without YouTube getting mad at me, so I'll just put a link in the description if you want to take a listen to the piece. But more importantly, with this specific case, is that it makes perfect sense dramatically. The piece is at the end of Inception, where we don't know for sure what's real life and what's a dream anymore. It kind of makes sense that we would feel trapped in a loop. So if you're composing for that same specific dramatic context, where incessant repetition is central to the character's conflict or situation, by all means, go for it. But most of the time, when I hear a piece that uses a looping chord progression, that's not the case. The composer thinks they're making the piece sound sweeping and epic, but most of the time it's just predictable. So I don't hate looping chord progressions. There are a million examples of pieces I love that have them. But if you're going to use them, have a good reason. Or have enough interest in your other parts that we don't even notice or care about the loop. So what should you do instead? Well, personally, I think a melody-first approach leads to better results. Or at least a little bit of melody, a few chords, some more melody, kind of back and forth. Paul McCartney didn't wake up with F to E minor 7 in his head. It was the melody to Yesterday that came to him in a dream. By starting with the melody, you're letting the line lead you and appreciating the fact that music unfolds over time. It's not just about a chain of chords or like linking together a bunch of train cars, as Gavin Leeper puts it. Instead, you're actually letting the melody lead the listener through the music. That way, your music is more like a flowing river and less like a bunch of increasingly larger puddles. By the way, I put together a website summarizing all the main points here, so check for a link to it in the description. And if you are cringing at the idea of writing melody first, because you've always been a chords first type of person, I've got you covered. Check out my video on the sentence form, my favorite formula for writing a melody. Heads up, it's a bit of an older one. And after that, I've got a recent one on how to choose chords for a melody. With those, you'll be all set and your looping chord progressions will be a thing of the past. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.